Welcome back to eXhuming the X-Files, everybody. Every Friday here on Outpost Unknown, can't even speak, we are discussing a new X-Files episode, so hit that like and subscribe to follow along, and leave a comment with your thoughts. I am Matthew, he's Jeremy.
Hey, everybody!
And tonight we are continuing the two-part story arc that we started last week with Dwayne Barry with the finale, Ascension. So now, you and I were both very, very excited to get into this one. Just a quick question. Did you remember this story arc when you were rewatching it, or was this something you'd kind of forgotten about?
The stuff that I remembered most was the pumping of Scully's very pregnant belly. I remember that.
Oh, yeah.
Because, well, I mean, it was important. Like, a main character of a show got fucking abducted by aliens. Well, I didn't know she was pregnant when I was a kid. I was just like, this shit is tight, but what's going to happen to her, you know?
Yeah.
It was important to me.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, let's talk about Ascension. What happens in this one?
So we begin right where we left off. There's Mulder is hanging out in his house. He's watching a porno. You gotta turn it up a little bit, but so there's a chick getting fucked, and it's just like late night. He's just watching it, but you only see his face. You don't, and you hear the television set. And
that's a recurring gag throughout the X-Files is Mulder's love of porn. And I wonder if David Duchovny had anything to do with that, considering he was a sex addict at the time. Like, did he incorporate that as part of his character?
He gets the... What? Wait, was that this episode?
Which one are you talking about?
Yeah, no. I think that it was that way because he ends up playing his answering machine. No, I'm wrong. He wasn't sitting there watching a porno. He just gets home and plays his answering. Yeah, I'm thinking about a different episode. Sorry.
Folks, we watch all of these, like we watch 4 back to back. So we record all these, 4 episodes so at a time. So we get things a little screwed up.
So he gets home, he listens to the message of Scully flipping out. He apparently calls the cops because the cops are already at her townhouse when he shows up. He gets inside. He sees the broken window. He sees blood. He sees blood on a little bit of blood on the floor. A stomped phone as he's going through his mind about everything that had showed up on his answering machine. And then Scully's mom shows up, and he has to block her from entering because she's just like super duper mad. And Mulder comes back out, says, she's not in there. You're not going to help by stomping all over a crime scene. Yeah. And then we get the title screen.
Yeah,
it says,
yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No. You do it.
It says deny everything. So, and that was one of the things I remember as a kid too, because it was always trust no one, right? And then what did it change to last season? There was a switch. Why am I blanking on what the title card switched?
Didn't it say I want to believe or something like that?
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what it was, but that was always the thing. Like, I would always watch through the opening credits all the way to make sure like a different message didn't pop up, and what would that mean? So this one said deny everything in the opening credits.
From there, we end up going to Skinner's office / conference room that always seems to be full of people. Every time we're in Skinner's office, there's either just him and the cigarette smoking man or a conference room full of people. Like, taking meetings with this guy must be ass because he just runs like full 8-person meetings all day long. But they're doing a task force thing. They're trying to figure out, okay, you're assigned to this part of finding Scully. You're assigned to this part, Mulder. I understand that you want to be a part of this, but you've been up all night long. Skinner gets in his face and says, we will use you if you are useful to us, but for now, you need to go home.
Go to sleep, Mulder.
And of course, he doesn't do any of that. We cut to Dwayne Barry. He's driving a car. He's got Scully in the trunk. They're doing this kind of great scene playing the Red Right Hand song on the radio. Like, he's just wandering about in this vehicle, and he ends up getting pulled over by a trooper. Trooper sees blood on his hands, sees blood on his wrist, pulls a gun on him, and Scully gets the trooper killed.
Yeah.
Like, she has to be able to hear everything that's going on. The trooper draws on him and has him dead to rights. Like, the moment this dude moves, he's a dead man. And this fucking trooper, like, he suspected something was off from the beginning. He had his hand on his piece, like, he was ready to rock. But because Scully, like, kicks the trunk of the car, the trooper looks over and just gets blasted by
Yeah. Poor guy. And Scully has no idea she caused that guy's death.
Yeah, we never resolved that.
Nope.
Just a state P, just getting dead. Mulder gets that footage while he still hasn't slept. Krychek comes and visits him while he's like trying to figure shit out, and he's thinking in his head, you know, where was he heading? That's where they're trying to figure out. Where was he heading? And in the previous episode, he's like, there's a mountain somewhere high. I got to ascend to the stars. And something about ascend to the stars is just sticking with Mulder. Like, he's seen this logo somewhere. He ends up flipping through a phone book and finding that, was it Skyland Mountain?
Yep.
And that they take gondola rides up to the top, and it's the slogan for the mountain is ascend to the stars. So he gets a hold of Krychek. He's like, Krychek, let's get in a car. Let's just go. Let's not talk to anybody about what we're doing. Krychek needs to keep an eye on him as the his handler / bad guy.
Krychek's like, well, what are we going to tell Skinner? And Mulder's like, I'll deal with Skinner, and then doesn't deal with Skinner at all.
Just gets in the car and leaves. So Fox is driving, even though he hasn't slept in one whole day at least, if not closer to 2 days in this car. As they're driving, he almost gets cerulean blued. You'll understand that.
Cerulean blue is like a gentle breeze.
Pulls in front of a semi, almost gets run over. Like, Krychek's like, I will take you there if you just want to come over here and pass out. And Mulder's like, no. They start busting each other's shots.
Almost ended right there. The show was almost over. And I was sitting here thinking, I was like, Mulder, you just went through an episode called Sleepless with all these military guys who haven't slept in 24 years. You know how bad it is to not sleep. Get some fucking sleep. Just 15-minute power nap. That's all you need.
And Krychek he was helpful to get him there. And he was also rattling off stuff. And then Mulder starts busting his balls about being really, really boring. So we're starting to see the humor that we've been missing, the sarcastic jabs and shit, the ribbing that Mulder is capable of. Because he kind of lost that towards the end of season 1 because he's depressed. But we start seeing the ball busting show up more and more as time goes on. So they get to the bottom of Skyland Mountain. They find that, have you seen a picture? It shows a picture of the guy, this dude that's operating the gondola, and says, he was here 45 minutes ago. How long does it take to get up the mountain? An hour. Cuts to Dwayne Barry going up the mountain. It's a 3-lane back road, hard, like pavement all the way up. That is not a back road. That's a fucking highway.
Yeah. I do like how they just keep cutting to shots of Scully because she's barely in this episode at all, obviously because she was about ready to have her baby. And it's just like close-ups of Scully's scared face in the trunk of the car. That's it. Just every time we want to like punch up the drama here. The timer's counting down. We got to find Scully, and it's just her like freaked out face in the trunk of this car. It stuck with me all these years.
She looked scared in that scene.
Yeah.
You don't normally see her heroine in any movie or television show back then, like, so vulnerable, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it was weird. They tell the gondola guy, like, take us up or let me go up in one of the gondolas. And he's like, no, I just replaced the cable, so it's not safe. We haven't tested it yet. So Mulder flashes his piece. Because I'm going up.
I quoted him, no, you don't have a choice, unquote.
Yep. Very, very, FBI style. Mulder gets in the gondola. He starts getting sent up. He apparently has control of the gondola with a wheel that just says faster and slower on it with a speedometer above.
Well, I wrote it down. It's labeled as, quote, fast speed on the dial. And the guy's like, "Don't crank it past 15." And immediately
Immediately push
Mulder
it to
cranks it to
30.
30.
So
He's
he's hauling
flying
ass
up.
up this mountain. It's kind of this tense thing because we don't. He's like, you need to slow it down at least as you go through the tower because you're gonna get bumped off the rail or off the cable. And he just kind of cranks it back down to about 20. It takes a quick bump, and then Krychek just like pistol whips the gondola guy and brings it to a complete halt. Shuts it all down because
He's been
he's
on the
been in
phone, yeah, with
with
cigarette smoking man.
telling him like I'll keep him busy while you go do this Scully thing, like deal with Scully, extracts. Like it seems like they want to get a hold of Scully wherever she is.
Yeah. Now I have a question for you. I actually wrote this down in my notes. When we are first introduced to Krychek in the very first episode he's in, it's clear at the end of the episode that he's a bad guy because he's talking to Cigarette Smoking Man. They're already talking about how they're going to do something to Scully and whatnot. My note here is, wouldn't it have been way cooler for this to be the moment where it's revealed that Krychek is a bad guy? So if they had never filmed that last sequence, man, I can't remember which episode it was on, where they did not have that. And we still had no idea as the audience. We still believed Krychek was a good guy and just trying to help out Mulder. And then, boom, all of a sudden, right there, he turns and gets on the phone, and you realize he's talking to the cigarette smoking man, and this is all he's all part of it. I think that would have hit a lot harder
Oh yeah,
than already knowing he's a bad guy this whole time.
because we would have had 3 episodes to build up the character, let it breathe a little bit, let the friendship and camaraderie between Mulder and
Yeah.
Krychek build up. Like there's trust, Krychek is the replacement Scully almost, and then he pistol whips the guy and stops the crane. Yeah, that would have been brilliant.
Yeah.
But
Should have had
I
me on
mean,
the payroll. 13-year-old
well,
old me should have been on the payroll.
sure, but you got to keep in mind that this episode and the last episode only existed because Scully was not or was pregnant, right? So
That's
they
true. Yeah.
probably already had the arc kind of planned out with Krychek, and then they had to pivot in the last.
Yeah, that's true.
So he stops the cart from going up. Mulder decides to get out of the cart on a ladder. And like I don't know where he's gonna go, if he's gonna climb the cable to get up. Like there's no way to get to the top. And he's very, very close to the top of the gondola ride, but he's not quite there. And then Krychek almost kills him
Yeah.
by
Well,
turning.
is he trying to kill him at that point? Because it seems like he's almost trying to kill him. And then
Yeah,
because he looks disappointed, like Krychek looks incredulous when he sees Mulder get out of the gondola and start like trying to climb on the cable on his own. He's like, "What the hell?" And then he hits the button to almost make Mulder fall. But then,
almost.
like,
Mulder falls and
that's true,
like
yeah.
catches himself on the edge of the like he was inches from just falling to his death.
That's true. Yeah. So Mulder falls, and then he almost looks a little like, why he's very, very disappointed. But I don't. At this point, cigarette smoking man doesn't want Mulder dead. So wouldn't that imply that Krychek was kind of going against what the cigarette
Off the
smoking man would
reservation.
have wanted at that time?
Maybe. Maybe. I
Okay,
mean,
because
it's not really established that he's mad at Mulder for a lot of these things, and it might have just been an accident because he was just trying to fuck with him a little bit. He was there. It was a delay tactic. He even said that he had delayed Mulder indefinitely. Mulder being on the outside of that and trying to climb like a greasy oil covered cable was never going to work. And even if it did, he'd probably 30 minutes, 45 minutes just to get to the top. That would have been more than enough time
I
for the
guess.
retrieval team to come in and
And he could have just told cigarette smoking man, "Hey, look, man, the crazy guy tried to climb a greasy cable and he fell off." I couldn't foresee that happening.
well, they came in and did a cleanup job. They took the pistol whipped guy who apparently died from the pistol whipping,
Yes.
and he was looking at him through a camera. So there would have been camera footage that they would have been like, "Wait a minute, why did the cart just stop or start suddenly?" Oh, okay.
No ho on the roho. I hit the button.
So, what was it? Oh, he gets to the top because Krychek just lets the gondola go all the way to the top of the mountain. he finds the car. He sees the blood on the inside of the car on the steering wheel, and he just starts getting pissed. And so he sees a bright light, and he goes over a hill, and there's Dwayne Barry just ranting like a madman, just shouting into the heavens, "You took that, bitch! You didn't take me!" Like,
He is so happy. So happy. And Mulder's just like incredulous at this point. He's so pissed.
yeah.
Where is she? Where is she? They took her! They took her! Lucky
And,
me, oh happy day.
for a guy that just took a bullet in a lung on his heart side, like he can yell at the top of his lungs just
Yeah.
fine. But yeah, Mulder is absolutely fucking livid. Like, he's never been more angry in an episode than he is at this moment. He doesn't lock him in a cell, but he locks him in the building at the top of the gondola. He's like interrogating him, fucking yelling at him, and he's so mad he starts fucking strangling.
Yeah. He's screaming, "Did you hurt her?" I mean, just in a rage. This is probably like the most emotion we have seen out of Dave Duchovny in this show. I mean, he's just screaming at the top of his lungs.
He tripped that man's trigger, lit his fuse. But so Krychek sees him doing this through a window and like busts in to try to stop him for some reason. And Mulder's like, don't you come in here? Don't you let anybody in this fucking room? Like, I'm gonna go cool off for a minute, and I'm gonna come back and start choking this guy again. That's what it seems like. But he comes back. He goes out, talks to somebody, and then goes back to the room. Sees Krychek inside the room, like talking to him, kind of quietly. And he gets in the room, gets really, really mad at Krychek. It's like, nobody was supposed to come in here, not even you. Blah 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 blah. And then the dude starts choking and dies shortly afterwards. So he starts to look at Krychek suspiciously, like, did you just poison this fucking guy? But not really. Didn't really get in his face, but he starts to seem suspicious about Krychek and his motives.
Which is weird because, well, I mean, it shouldn't be weird, but Mulder has been established since the end of season one. Ray doesn't trust anybody, like trust no one at all. That was what the thing was at the end of the last episode of season one. That's when Deep Throat says "trust no one." I think that was the line in the opening credits. Um, and so it's he doesn't trust Krychek the first time we meet him with Krychek, but then it seems like he slowly starts to trust Krychek, but then he immediately flips back to, well, wait a minute. This is kind of weird. I don't think he should have ever trusted Krychek from the get go. I think one of my main criticisms of the Krychek character, and I think you might be right, in which they were kind of just they had to pivot and write this in a way, and maybe it wasn't originally planned this way. But the Krychek stuff, I almost feel like this would have been awesome as like a season long sort of thing, and then we get the twists later on. So we have a lot of time to build that relationship of I don't trust Krychek, now I do trust Krychek, and now it's been flipped on its head at the very end, because it all feels in these few episodes really fast paced, and I think it harms the kind of motivations of Mulder a little bit. They don't make a lot of sense to me in such a short time frame. But yeah, maybe they had to pivot, like you said, and it was just difficult to pull off. But feels like he should have been suspicious. He should never have said, "Krychek, you stay here and watch all by yourself as I go cool off." Doesn't seem like something Mulder would have done.
To kind of expand on what you were just talking about, I remember this as a kid, but I remember Scully being gone and off the show and abducted for a lot longer
Yes.
than what she was. And that has to be because there were breaks in between the weeks where us as fans had to kick back and like obsess with talk to each other about what the fuck is going on. We invent this whole world of things that's going on, then we come back to it. Like, this is not a binge show. So maybe, I mean, it seemed like all of this stuff was longer than it actually is.
100%. And when we talk about one breath in a couple weeks, that's one of my notes. Is I was like, okay, Scully's back. I remembered Scully being gone for like 5, 6, 7 episodes or
Episodes, yeah.
something, and I'm like, "There's only 1 episode in which she's gone, and then she's immediately back." It was kinda shocking to me as well, and I think that's what watching all these kind of back to back, it made me just kind of feel, oh, this needed more time to breathe. This relationship between Krychek, they should have toyed with the audience more than they did. Give Jillian, 2 3 months of maternity leave there. Let's flesh out all this other stuff and then hit the audience down the road with a big twist reveal of Krychek. But you know, 100% agree with you. I was like kind of shocked that she came back so quickly.
Well, maybe we're remembering it wrong. Maybe this is some Mandela effect shit. Because I
It's possible.
swear there was multiple times throughout this season where we would have had an alien or government conspiracy episode where we just had a brief flash of Scully being gone and her abduction and undergoing medical tests, and then we just cut back to whatever's. I swear that happened in like multiple episodes.
Maybe does she get abducted again at some
No,
point? I
no,
don't
because
know.
this. Well, she might have flashbacks and stuff. Because I remember where this goes, but yeah. Anyway, we get to Krychek talking to the cigarette smoking man. He's kind of pissed that he has to go through such great lengths to keep Mulder alive,
Yeah,
and he straight up asks the cigarette smoking man, "It's like, why don't we just off this dude?" And the cigarette
that's
smoking man says, "Killing Mulder
yeah,
creates a crusade."
yeah. Well, first he says that's not policy, and Krychek's like, "Wait a minute, you just had me murder Dwayne Barry." He was a totally innocent dude. And then that's when Cigarette Smoking Man says, "Kill Mulder and you risk turning one man's religion into a crusade," which is a cool line. But then I don't exactly know what he means by that. So who's taken up that crusade? Is it Scully at that point that takes on the crusade?
Yeah,
I
I
don't know
mean,
who that is.
but see, you see that line as an adult, and you're like, it's a very cool line to listen to. You're right, and as we are right now, you're absolutely right to question that. But when we were a kid and you heard that cool ass line, you're like, me, it's gonna
Yeah,
be me that takes up the crusade, like
yeah,
because we were that involved with what was going on.
100%. Yeah, you're right.
So they end up going to Skinner's never ending fucking continuous conference meeting. Um, he or Mulder leaves that conference meeting. I can't even remember what they said, but it wasn't much. And then Mulder goes after the.
Well, I love that guy. That guy who's like, "Why are you so paranoid, Mulder?" Because Mulder believes that Dwayne Barry was poisoned and that like the military covered up the findings. And they're in this conference room, and everyone's like, "What? Like, what evidence do you have of this?" And Mulder's like, "My belief that
Yeah.
that's what happened." And that guy's like, "Why are you so paranoid, Mulder?" It was, yeah, it was funny.
And then he goes after the senator guy, the guy from the very early on in the season
Yeah,
that was his financier or backer. He told him to go to Puerto Rico. And as he's this comes back to the trusting part of Mulder that you were talking about earlier that doesn't make any fucking sense because he's about to storm into the senator's office and he gets stopped by sweaty X standing in a stairwell.
sweaty
It's like
X.
and X is only there to tell Fox that that senator guy can't help you. It'd be political suicide, and it's so fucking vague. It's like, why didn't you just tell him to go fuck himself and then go see the senator anyway? But he takes it at face value, and it's just X is like Deep Throat, but even more vague in the shit that he's talking about, and it's
Yeah,
so obnoxious sometimes because like you'd get little tidbits of fun here and there from Deep Throat. With X, it's just like you get absolutely nothing but bullshit and the idea that's like I don't want you to do anything that I'm not personally telling you to go out and do. And he
yeah.
just believes it. He takes it at face value and says, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Okay. So he walks away from the senator's office just listening to X.
And I don't
Um
remember if we ever see that senator again, Because if we don't, I would question like, well, what was the reason to sort of write that person out of the show entirely? And why exactly would the senator why would it be political suicide for the senator? How does the senator have anything to do with the Dwayne Barry investigation and Scully being kidnapped? Like, I don't understand. I guess maybe I missed something when I was watching it. I don't get why this super important contact that's been helping Mulder this entire time would suddenly cut ties with them. Not like none of this is really public, right? I mean, it's not like, I don't know.
No, but it's he doesn't go to ask. It's just that X shows up and tells him it is so. So he's just like, okay,
Yeah.
I guess I'm alone now, and walks away. Gets in the car that he borrowed from Krychek, opens up the ashtray, and sees some half-smoked Morleys, like the Cancer Man does. We keep calling him the cigarette smoking man. So why do they call? Why do we do that when Mulder calls him the Cancer Man?
I don't know. And that was funny because as a kid, I was actually going to ask you this question. It's in my notes. How do you prefer to call him? Because I, as a kid, always remember him being called the cigarette
Cigarette
smoking man.
smoking man. So that's another Mandela effect fucking thing going on because I don't ever remember him being called the Cancer Man.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
Me
doesn't
either.
even roll off the tongue like the cigarette smoking man.
Yeah. So, listeners, leave a comment. Do you remember
Yeah,
him being
which
called
one did
cigarette
you
smoking
remember?
man or cancer man when you watched this when you were younger? Because I always said cigarette smoking man, and when he's like the cancer man, I that just it seemed weird to me.
And so he goes back to visit with Skinner, who finally doesn't have a room full of people that he's keeping in a meeting for 8 hours during the workday. Don't you just hate those when they wheel in the shitty Subway platter and it's like, oh my god. Anyway, uh, and it's the first time that Skinner is the way his posturing and the way he's talking to Mulder about what's going on. It finally feels like Skinner is on Mulder's side.
Yeah.
Like he's trying to help, and he's like, you need to rein your shit in, but we need to make all of this work. They got one of our people, and that's just too far for me because he respected Scully, and so they can't do anything. He can't tell him where the cigarette smoking man is or do anything about him. But what he can do is reopen the X Files.
Yeah. That's what they fear the most. Which is cool that the X Files now we have the excuse as to why Mulder can go, search for vampires and do all of that cool stuff. But as an adult, I'm sitting here thinking like, clearly, cigarette smoking man is much much higher in the chain of command than Skinner. Assistant Director Skinner. How does Skinner simply have the authority to reopen this stuff? Who just snapped his fingers and it's good. Like I don't think we ever see any real ramifications. Maybe we do down the line, but there would be some sort of blowback from Cigarette Smoking Man against Skinner just reopening this stuff, right? It seems like we just kind of brush past that. It's that moment to give Skinner, okay, Skinner's a good guy. He was an asshole. He was kind of a jerk. He's that jerky boss we don't like, but he's actually got his heart in the right place moment.
I mean, excuse me, is cigarette smoking man even in the FBI? Because X Files is an FBI thing.
I
Scanner is
don't
an FBI director, so does he have the authority to just up and do that?
I don't
Surely.
know. I don't know if they ever say like what agency Cigarette Smoking Man's part of. I think he's just part of his own like weird thing.
Yeah,
But
yeah. I think he's
he
just a
clearly
spoon.
but he clearly had enough sway to get them shut down initially. So, the FBI closes out the X Files because, at least it seemed to me, it felt that way through the series, that Cigarette Smoking Man's the one who's got the power and is pulling the strings to kind of make this stuff happen. And
Sure,
it was
but did he
only
need Skinner in the first place to on as the FBI representative shut it down in the first place? Because didn't Skinner say the FBI or the X Files are closed or whatever at the end of season one?
Well, I thought that that Mulder tells that to Scully, doesn't he? I'd have to go back and rewatch it. But somebody, because I know Mulder's on the phone with Scully, he's like, "It's over. They've shut down the X Files,"
Yeah.
sort of thing. But yeah, I guess I always kind of felt that Cigarette Smoking Man was the one that was pulling those levers of power to get that stuff shut down. But maybe he has less power than we think he does. I don't know.
Maybe.
They don't give a great explanation for it.
Or maybe I think in this instance they just went too far by I know that or I'm sure that Skinner suspects that the cigarette smoking man had something to do with Scully's disappearance.
Oh
And he
yeah,
thinks that that's, okay, I was cooperating and then you took one of my people and did this. So our cooperation is either over until I get killed or I'm just going to go off the reservation a little bit. That's what it feels like anyway.
yeah, I agree with that.
All right. So,
So, yeah, we do get that last little moment with Mulder and Scully, or sorry, Mulder talking to Scully's mom. And there's a great line where he hands, or the mom, is it the mom that hands the necklace, or oh no, he has a necklace, he hands it to the mom, and the mom's like, "You hold on to it for when you find her." And Mulder actually asked Scully's mom, like, if she was such a skeptic, why did she wear this? And the mom's like, "I gave it to her on her 15th birthday." And this might also be another sort of Mandela effect as we're going through. I distinctly always had the impression that Scully was always religious and believed in like all of that kind of stuff always. But this kind of made me, because Mulder's like, if she was such a skeptic, why did she wear this? He doesn't say why does she believe in this stuff if she's a skeptic. He was like, why does she wear this cross? Almost like it's weird that she's wearing this. And Beyond the Sea, we get a few little glimpses of Scully kind of maybe believing in some sort of afterlife or something like that. But I was just kind of struck by that sort of moment where maybe Scully is, a skeptic like Mulder, but just in a different way about a lot of stuff. How did that moment play with you? Did you still get the sense that she's super religious, or that she is even a skeptic of religion itself?
I do recall from being a kid that Scully came across as the person that had faith.
Yeah.
Like it we didn't get beat about the head and neck with it like other shows would do with characters that were into Christianity, but yeah, she always came across as somebody that believed in God and believed in those things. So yeah, that scene was weird in that it came across as more of a gift and a talisman in that case instead of an expression of faith. But you
Yeah.
know,
And the mom doesn't say that, she believes the stuff. She just said, I gave it to her on her 15th birthday. That's it. Like, my mom's given me stuff on my birthday. It doesn't mean I'm going to carry it around with me for the rest of my life. It just seemed weird. I kind of wanted a little bit more context to the necklace, because the necklace becomes very, very important in the next couple episodes. They really use this necklace as a point of importance in the next couple episodes. I do like that Mulder went up and looked up into the sky at the end. I love the last shot of this as he's just kind of like looking up as he's sort of apoplectic that Scully's gone and he couldn't do anything to sort of stop it. The sequence where Scully is getting tested on, um, creepy. I put on here like this is really creepy because, like you said, when you see her belly, and it's got that pump and it's like sucking juices out or something. It's really disturbing how it's all shot and set up, and I think you're absolutely right when you say like we didn't see main characters back in the day going through this kind of stuff. Like this, Scully is the co-lead of this show, and she's put in this extreme position of vulnerability, and it just looks so disturbing that she's again, I didn't know she was pregnant at the time. I was like, oh my god, her belly, there's like sucking all these stuff out of her, and it's gigantic. What is going on? So I thought that was really creepy. I like this episode quite a bit. I think this is I don't think it's as good as Dwayne Barry.
it wasn't.
Um,
Yeah.
But I do like that this kind of it brought in all the players that we wanted to see, right? Cigarette Smoking Man, X, Skinner's back, and everyone's kind of dealing with the fallout of Scully's abduction and trying to find her and whatnot. And I liked the episode quite a bit in terms of putting all these people back in play and sort of because is this the one where Mulder confronts Skinner or I mean Cigarette Smoking Man, or is that no, that's in One Breath, right? That's a
Yeah,
couple down the
yeah,
line.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself. But I like setting the stage for what we're gonna get a couple episodes down the line in One Breath. But yeah, I really like this episode. What were your thoughts on this one?
I liked it. It was enjoyable. It wasn't as good as Dwayne Barry, but I think that's just because Dwayne Barry had an angle to it and it was news story, and this was just kind of wrapping things up from that. So
Yeah,
yeah, no, it's enthralling from
yeah.
beginning to end. Like I was
And
there for it.
And I think what makes Dwayne Barry superior to Ascension is that Railsback is all the way through Dwayne Barry, and his performance is so good that when he's offed in this one, I feel like the episode kind of loses some momentum in terms of not plot or story or anything like that, but just in terms of like, oh wow, like I really am watching this for this actor is doing a fucking great job, and then boom, that fucking weasel Krychek kills him, and now we're focused on other stuff. But yeah, overall, like this episode, I think it's a good capper to this sort of two-parter. So a couple interesting tidbits here. Not as many as with Dwayne Barry episode, but the song playing for the first time when Dwayne Barry is seen is Red Right Hand, performed by Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. Scully's inflated belly was no prosthetic. Gillian Anderson was heavily pregnant with her daughter at the time, so her real belly was used for that scene. I wonder what she was thinking when they were hooking up like this pump to it and whatnot. I'd love to see some behind the scenes footage of all of that. The idea to have Scully abducted originated when Gillian Anderson became pregnant in the middle of the first season. While initially upset, those in charge of the show never considered dropping the actress from the show, which would have been an awful had they done something like that. Ideas such as having Scully give birth to an alien baby were dismissed. Ultimately, the writers decided to work around the pregnancy by closing the X-Files, separating the agents, and eventually having Scully be abducted. This permitted the producers to have an explanation for Scully's absence. She appears in only 2 scenes in Ascension and not at all in the next episode 3. Series creator Chris Carter commented that both the censors and the producers were reluctant on showing Scully in the trunk, but he, quote, fought for that image, unquote, as he considered it conveyed the sense of danger to the character. Which is good because that is one of the images that stuck with me all since childhood, is like Scully with the gag in her mouth and she's all bloody and bruised on her face and everything like that. And there's something about like being trapped in the trunk of a car that kind of creeps me out. So that really worked for me. Carter added the scenes of the experiment, or added that the scenes of the experiment were meant to be ambiguous on whether Scully was abducted by aliens, the military, or both. And then Ascension featured guest appearances from Steve Railsback, Nicholas Lee, Stephen Williams, sweaty Stephen Williams, and Sheila Larkin. David Duchovny provided his own stunts in this episode, including being dangled in the aerial lift, which was shot in a single day at Grouse Mountain in North Vancouver, British Columbia. So that was David Duchovny hanging off the side of that lift. Good on him, man. I mean, he went for it. So yeah, that's our review and discussion of Ascension. Cool capper to this 2-part episode. Next week, Scully is gone. Mulder is by himself, and we are going to talk about episode 7 of season 2, which is titled 3. Directed by David Nutter, written by Glenn Morgan, James Wong, and Chris Ruppenthal. Where are we going from here? We're going to see where Mulder's headspace is now that Scully has been abducted and he can't find her. So be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Leave a comment. We love reading them. What did you think of Ascension? Let us know. And we will see you next Friday on eXhuming the X-Men.